Hello and welcome to our YouTube channel. This is another story. It's called Ben the Bullfrog. Another story about frogs. Ben the Bullfrog was the biggest frog around. At one, Ben was as big as a cat. By three, he was bigger than a cow. And he just kept growing. He outgrew his pond quickly. He always dreamed of finding the perfect home. It had just the right amount of water. It had tall grass by the shore and big trees in the distance. Ben went out to find it. Ben leaped from the pond to pond, from river to river, and from lake to lake. All the ponds were just too little for him. No river was wide enough. No lake was deep enough. Ben didn't know where else to go. A larger heron flying overhead landed beside him. "What's wrong?" the heron asked. I am looking for a home with grass and flowers and lots of water. But wherever I go, I'm always too big." The bird thought it over. "I heard of a place like the one you described." "Really?" Ben asked with excitement. "Where is it?" "It's far north of here. You pass over the dry lands, through some forests, and through the barrier. You are going to the Great Lakes. From what I hear, you can't miss them." "Great! I'll go now." Ben waited a minute before jumping. "What's wrong?" the frog asked. Ben looked around. "I have lived around here all of my life. It's hard to leave." Then the heron nodded. "Sometimes we outgrow our first homes. We have to move. We have to move on. But we can always remember that place in our hearts." The bird reached over and picked a blue flower with its beak. "Here, take this. It will remind you of what you left and what you are looking for." Ben smiled, took the flower, and hopped away. Ben soon reached the dry land. The sand there was hot and hard to jump off. Ben began to leap across. Over time, his skin got dry and he became very thirsty. The dry land would be a very hard place to live, he thought. Ben saw two lizards looking up at the sky. He stopped. "What are you looking at?" he asked. "See those clouds up there?" one lizard said, pointing. "They fly over sometimes, but they never rain." The second lizard nodded. "They say if you could tickle the clouds, then all the rains would fall out." Ben looked up. "I could probably reach them." "Really?" Ben began to jump up and down. He jumped higher and higher. Soon he was high in the sky. He reached out and tickled a fluffy cloud. a couple of rain drops fell. The cloud laughed hard and it began to rain. Then the cloud laughed harder and there was a downpour. The lizards were rolling and playing on the ground. "Thank you so much," they said. "Why don't you stay here and live with us?" Ben had come far, but he still had not found a large lake. He remembered what the heron had said. "No, thank you. I know where I have to go." Ben smiled and hopped away. The next day, Ben reached a forest. It had the tallest trees Ben had ever seen. He met a family of worried squirrels. "What's wrong?" Ben asked. "The trees are keeping all their nuts this year. The mama squirrel said they aren't letting any of them drop." The papa squirrel nodded. "We need those nuts for the winter." Ben had an idea. "I might be able to help," he said. Ben began to jump up and down. Each time he landed, the earth shook. It shook harder and harder and harder until finally all the trees in the whole forest dropped their nuts. The squirrels ran around with excitement. "Thank you so much, Mr. Bullfrog," said the papa squirrel. "Why don't you stay here with us?" Ben thought about needing a bigger pond. He knew he had to keep searching. "No, thank you. I know where I have to go." Ben smiled and hopped away. Ben reached the berry. It had grasses and flowers, but no trees. It was the longest stretch of open land he had ever seen. Finally, Ben jumped over a sandy hill and saw a huge lake. It was the biggest lake he had ever seen. This must be one of the great lakes. He laughed. Ben the frog took one great big leap down the hill. He planted his flower in the sandy hill. That way he would always remember his home pond. Then he jumped into the water. The lake wasn't too small, too shallow, or too narrow. It was perfect. He was home. Let's learn the fluency of this story. Read with accuracy and appropriate rate. Read with accuracy. Be sure it read all the words. Do not omit or add words. Don't rush when you read. Read the sentences as if you are speaking. Practice. Number 1. Turtles are reptiles that have hard shell. Some turtles can live on land or on water. A tortoise is a turtle that lives only on land.